Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome, and welcome back to part 2 of the energetic reset. So in the last episode, the first episode of this series, which was the last episode, we talked about the language of the body and decoding the language of the body. And today I want to go deeper. And today I want to talk about capacity. It's your energetic capacity, your emotional capacity, your biological capacity. And it's why most high achieving women are burning out. And it's well, I don't want to get into it yet, but I want to debunk some of the biggest misconceptions in my opinion. Because really, the fact is that the reason most high achieving women are burning out is because their systems were never designed to function under the pressure that they've been living with. And so I want to break down what burnout actually is physiologically, emotionally, energetically. It's such a buzzword these days. I think it kind of loses the oomph, like the meaning and the severity, if you were, and not to fear monger or anything, but I feel like it just, we hear and we talk about it so like nonchalantly, like passe, like, oh, it's just burnout. Like it's not a big deal, but really it can be a really big deal. And it is a big deal. So I want to break this down, tie in the human design piece that, I love to do, and what that reveals about your burnout patterns, your minerals, your gut, your nervous system, all the things. So I want to first start by talking about the burnout as a capacity issue and the biggest misconceptions that I see. So let's dive into this episode here. Most people think that burnout is doing too much, or I need to manage my time better. And that's not what it is at all. It's not what it is at all. And that's what most people think. And even I think at a subconscious level, when we say you hear me and my interpretation of burnout and what I see burnout as, there's still this thing, oh, well, I just need to manage my time better. Like that comes out so often in the women I talk to when I'm talking about capacity issue and like an alignment issue. And it's like, oh, well, I'm just doing too much. I just need to manage. It's not about how much you're doing, and it's not about managing your time better. It's not. Burnout isn't how much we're doing. It's the energy that we're doing it in. It's how we're doing it. It's an alignment issue. It's a misalignment, and it's a capacity issue. So I had this conversation actually yesterday on a podcast I was interviewing on, and we talked about these misconceptions about burnout. And I gave the example that there's very like basic example, but there's two ways of doing things, right? I can spend all day from sunup to sundown doing something that I'm super lit up about. I'm super excited about. I love doing it. It's fun. It's exciting. Like I feel all the all that. I feel all that. I can do that all day long. I can skip breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I'm so excited doing it. And I go to sleep and I feel great about it. And I wake up the next day and I feel like, oh man, like that was so great, right? That's one way of doing things. I can also do things in a way where the whole day I'm working from sunup to sundown. I'm doing work that doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great in my body. I feel there's a heaviness. I'm doing it all day. I skip breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I'm like, there's pressure to get it done and keep going. And when I get done, I feel like completely awful. I wake up the next day and I feel completely awful. And I probably get up the next day and do it again because I feel like I have to. Those are two different ways of doing things. It's the energy that you're doing it, because in the first example, I'm doing something that I really love and I'm really excited about and I'm lit up about. So it doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel like heavy work. And the other issue, or in the other instance, the other example, the other side of that, I'm doing work that doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel good. So whether it's the way I'm doing it, I'm pushing, I'm forcing it because there's pressure, like doing things under pressure is generally speaking not in an aligned way, right? Yes, I know sometimes there's like things where you're on a deadline and like I get that. But for the most part, doing things where there's pressure or urgency, this is misaligned energy. This is misaligned energy. We are not designed, just like I talked about in the last episode, where we are designed, the language of the body is it doesn't speak in productivity, it's presence. We're not designed to do things in urgency and hypervigilance. That's not our normal state. That's an unsafe state. So if we're doing it in the energy of urgency, pressure, I have to do this, I should do this, I got to get this done, and oh man, I don't like doing this part of my job or my work. I wish I, like all of that energy, this is how we get into burnout. The other part of that is where there's an element of control. And I know for me, that was it for a long time, where I had this element of control of letting other people help and lead in my brick and mortar business, where for years, I would like dabble in getting a little bit of help, like managerial type help, and still wasn't like really giving over like as much as I should. And I was still doing too much. And I was like, so there's a control thing where the control is like, well, nobody's going to do it as good as me, or, well, I'm the only one that can do it right. Or for me, really, both of those things, I mean, those might have been things in my head, but I think the biggest thing for me is, and I've talked about this in the series I did earlier this year about productivity and worth. For me, it was like a sacrificial thing. Like, well, I have to do this. I have to do all this work. I have to work hard. This is how. The only way to get success is working hard, right? You know that old paradigm. The only way to get success, I got to sacrifice. I got to work. It's getting, when you get sucked into that hustle culture, you feel like you have to. Like, that's the only way to do it. And that's how you have to earn your success. You have to earn your rest. You have to earn your whatever it is. And that was what it was for me. So this is burnout as a capacity issue and as an alignment issue. So when you are in burnout, your minerals, your nervous system, your energetic field cannot sustain the load that you're carrying. So you are getting depleted physically, mentally, emotionally, all the things. And how this shows up, how I see this here's the thing, I want to say this. And it's coming to mind because I talked about it in that podcast episode I was on yesterday. Because she asked, can you look at a lab and see if someone's burned out before even having a conversation? 100% I can. Look, especially with an HTMA, which is one of the reasons I love doing HTMAs, hair tissue and mineral analysis. I can look at it and tell you right away if you're burned out. And the thing is, and we'll get to this, the thing is, a lot of times my clients don't feel like they're burned out per se. Right? There's little things that kind of nag them here and there, but it's like they've reestablished this energetic baseline. So this is their new normal. The problem with that is, yes, our bodies are great at adapting. They're great at adapting. Our bodies are just such wonderful, glorious vessels, and they're so wise. And our bodies are great at adapting because you got to function, right? And your body's like, well, I'm going to do what I got to do so you can function as a human being. So I'm going to slow this thing down here. I'm going to slow this thing down here, but you can still function, right? You can still get through your day, do all the things you need to do. And maybe you feel okay, I'm using air quotes here, okay. But what happens is eventually there's a threshold, right? You're going to eventually reach a threshold where your body has slowed down things like maybe your adrenals or your thyroid or your gut or your immune system. And eventually things are going to start adding to the list. And now, because your adrenals have slowed down, your thyroid is slowed down. And your thyroid is slowed down. And now my blood sugar is all over the place. Well, now my blood sugar is all over the place. Now my metabolism is all over the place. I feel sluggish. Now I'm not getting good sleep. And now my hormones are out of whack. Now my hormones are out of whack. My gut, right? It's like this chain reaction. So now you end up adding more and more things to the list. And eventually your body does scream at you to get your attention. And sometimes it's with something really serious, like a serious diagnosis or something. But my point is, yes, you can ride that wave for a while where your body has adapted and you're like, well, I can function, like I'm getting through my day fine. Right? But eventually it's going to, I don't want to say break, but that's the word that's coming to me. But eventually more things are going to pop up, right? I don't want to say break because I don't want to put that out there, but you know what I'm saying. So when I'm looking at an HTMA, a few things, well, there's more than a few, but a few key things I want to point out here. Sodium, talked about sodium in the last episode. Low sodium shows me that there's no ability to recover between stressors and your adrenals are tapped out. And sodium is, your adrenals use more sodium than any other part of your body. So if there's low sodium, that's like number one key indicator here. Low potassium is another one. There's no ability to sustain this creative output. And now I know that your thyroid is slowed down. Your thyroid and your adrenals have to talk to each other and they go hand in hand. So if your adrenals are slowed down, your thyroid and vice versa. Low magnesium. Now this could be on an HTMA, it's going to be either low magnesium. It can also be high magnesium because if it's super high, it indicates a loss. Either way, if it's off, basically at all. Basically, this is telling me that there's no ability to downshift. Remember I talked about in the last episode, magnesium is that relaxing mineral. So if there's low or super high magnesium, there's no ability to downshift. If I see copper dysregulation, and there's multiple factors I look at there, that shows me that there's emotional instability. If there's high calcium, I talked about a calcium shell and high tissue calcium. Basically, it's this sign that your body has had to shut down to survive. Like it's this protective shell around you. It's had to shut down to survive. So all of this that I see, and there's some other things I would look at in HTMA, but all of those are I don't even have to listen to your story. I need to listen to your story. I don't need to know your symptoms. I can look at it and tell you, I already know what state your body is in. And this is your body communicating to you that the load that you're carrying more biological and energetic resources than you currently have. Your body is not resourced to handle the load that you are carrying. And chances are, if that list that I just said, if those things are true for you, then you also have other things that are true, whether it be you're having sleep issues, you're having just basic energy issues, maybe your cortisol pattern's kind of wacky, maybe your hormones are out of whack, maybe you have weight that won't go away, you have brain fog, right? There's all these other things that are happening. And all of these are signs that your body, it can't sustain the rate that you're going. And so I want to take a deeper look at some of these, and I want you to see yourself. One of these is going to resonate with you, at least one, maybe more than one, maybe all of them, who knows? But at least one is going to resonate with you. I want you to see yourself in these. So I want to start talking about chronic exhaustion, even with rest. So when I say chronic exhaustion, there are levels to this, right? So there's fatigue where it's like, oh, I'm tired, right? And it happens often. Maybe it's multiple days a week. It's like, oh, I just feel tired. There's a fatigue where you go to sleep, but you don't really wake up feeling rested. And then there's this chronic exhaustion, even with rest. And I have a lot of my clients that feel like this. And sometimes it's interesting because I may not come up in the initial conversation as like one of their main concerns, but then when they're filling out all their intake forms, it comes out and they don't even realize or recognize until they're really like tuning into their body and answering a gajillion questions that I'm asking them in their intake forms. Like, wait a minute, like this is true for me. Because again, our body adapts. And as women, we're just like, hey, I got to put on my big girl panties and go. Like, I just got to do it. And so you just kind of shove it aside. You don't think about it. But then when you really stop to think about it, which is why I always talk about tuning into your body, taking time throughout the day to listen to your body, you're like, wait, yeah, I am like exhausted every day. This is a regular thing for me. So I want to say that about chronic exhaustion. So some possible mineral and gut drivers of chronic exhaustion: low sodium, which I talked about. Your adrenals have nothing left to respond with. Sodium is crucial. Potassium helps your thyroid. It also helps with mitochondria, the little energy drivers in your cells. They aren't firing efficiently. Magnesium, like I mentioned, your nervous system is stuck in this sympathetic drive and your energy is going to drain really fast. The calcium shell I talked about, your cells basically go into hibernation and they have this protective shell around them. It's also going to affect your thyroid because now our thyroid hormone can't get inside the cells. Copper dysregulation. It's this emotional component, like that's kind of the effects. Well, there's a lot of effects of copper dysregulation. One of the big effects is emotional burnout and emotional instability, which can also lead to physical exhaustion. Because if your emotions, when you experience an emotional day, like it's exhausting, it's draining. And sometimes it's like you get the emotional hangover the next day. Like that's what happens. And then of course, there's the issues with your gut. So poor gut absorption, meaning you're eating all the right things. Maybe you're taking all the right supplements, but you're not absorbing. And that's really a big one. And I think that's one we overlook a lot. And I dare say this is the issue with a lot of really healthy women who are doing all the things and they're not feeling great. Still not feeling great, is the gut absorption thing. Is if you're taking all the supplements and you're eating all the foods, you're doing all the things, but you're not absorbing it. I mean, what's the point, So this is a big one. And this is a huge energy deficit. So that's chronic exhaustion. The next one I want to talk about is energy crashes, like afternoon crashes or irritability. Like all these kind of go together. Irritability or the need for caffeine, which kind of goes with the last one, but it's kind of more like this unstable. So possible mineral and gut drivers here. Low sodium, again, because low sodium is related to our adrenals and our adrenals are responsible for cortisol. So when we have these cortisol dips, like hard, sharp dips midday, and you have these afternoon crashes, sodium is an issue. Potassium as well. Potassium is going to have an impact on our blood sugar. When if you've ever gotten hangry before, right? Blood sugar is going to affect your mood and cravings. Magnesium deficiency, again, affects your blood sugar. Magnesium is a driver of blood sugar, magnesium and calcium. Irritability and blood sugar, these things go together. Gut dysbiosis or gut dysfunction, again, with that nutrient absorption, you have this unstable energy, this instability with your energy because you're not absorbing everything. And then the last thing I want to mention is liver stagnation, and basically this toxic overload or detox overload, where your body's not able to detox optimally. And so you're recirculating toxins and potentially hormones and other things in the body, which can cause brain fog, irritability. Your cells aren't functioning optimally. It's just kind of this extra weight in our cells that's fogging the true energy of our cells, right? So the nervous system connection here for these crashes or unstable energy throughout the day, or if you're someone who feels like you need the afternoon caffeine, your body is living in this cycle of adrenaline surges followed by crashes. And that's the thing I think we also fail to recognize a lot of times, where we kind of forget like how maybe not great we feel, is your adrenaline can get you through a lot. And a lot of times, especially when you're a high-performing woman and you're in business or you have a career, there are a lot of things that can cause dopamine hits right throughout the day. Like you make a big sale in your business, or you hit the next thing in the next like benchmark in your job, your career. Like you get a surge of dopamine and you kind of get this adrenaline rush, and that gives you energy to like move on to the next thing and get to the next thing. If we're constantly chasing the dopamine hits, if we're constantly chasing those adrenaline hits, it is going to be only a matter of time before your adrenals are like just, I can't keep doing it. Because there's no opportunity, there's no room to level out, to stabilize. So you're constantly going with those dopamine and adrenaline surges, and then is followed by a crash. Or if you don't even let yourself get to the crash, it's just building and building, and before the bottom falls out, everything's going to crash because you haven't allowed it to stabilize. So the next symptom I want to talk about, this is a big one too, I find, for high-performing women, is the feeling wired but tired at night. So it's time for bed, it's time to go to sleep, I can't turn it off, right? I can't turn it off. And I have to say, sometimes it still happens to me if it's like a stressful stage of life or whatever. But I mean, for years, this is me. Like, or maybe I would go to sleep and then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and everything's just spiraling and you can't turn it back off. And then you're like, well, I'm not going back to sleep, right? Wired but tired. Possible mineral drivers for this. The magnesium, again, magnesium is always easy as a common factor here. You can't downshift. You're in that wired state. Remember, we need magnesium for that relaxing mineral. And here's the other thing. When you're in this state, oftentimes, I'd say most of the time, maybe all the time, you can take as much magnesium as you want, but either A, you're not absorbing it because of all these things we're talking about, or your body is just like zipping through it so fast, it can't absorb it and hold on to it and utilize it for what it needs to be used for. And I know that that's happened to me before. I'm like, I'm taking magnesium, I'm taking it, like it's not doing anything. High calcium is another one. That high calcium or the calcium shell, it's kind of this shutdown, and it's affecting how our cells are functioning. It's affecting how your neurons and your brain are functioning. It's affecting all that. Copper, especially excess copper, this can cause this anxiety. And a lot of times you experience as rumination, especially nighttime rumination. This is a big one. And then gut issues is always a common factor as well. And a lot of times when you have gut issues, it's either poor digestion. So your body's like trying to digest, but not great. So that's keeping you up at night. This can also cause things like histamine intolerance, which can cause nighttime wakefulness, can cause stress on the body. And so the connection with the nervous system here, the wired but tired state is classic burnout symptom and classic dysregulation. It's like pressing the gas and the brake at the same time. It's not a very efficient way to run a car, right? Pushing them both at the same time. And that's essentially what we're doing. So 2 more here, maybe 3, that I want to talk about is emotional volatility or numbness. And I put this one in here because and it's funny, I talked about this one on the podcast yesterday too. I was interviewing on, we talked about the calcium shell and the emotional volatility and numbness. Another way that I see high performing women kind of either ignoring or denying or even just not even recognizing, like it's not registering that the state that their health is in, that their body is in, is this right here. It's this emotion, maybe not the volatility, but the numbness. And a lot of times, the 2 big things here. The calcium shell for sure. And I've worked with a lot of people who have calcium shells, and all of them have been women who are they can just push, go through, right? When you have a calcium shell, so I I think I talked about this last time, but I'll mention it again. Just a little education here. What a calcium shell is, it's really high tissue calcium. This is not the same as when you get your blood drawn and you have high calcium in your blood. Those are two different things. This is high calcium in your tissue, right? Because it's in your hair, because that's what we're measuring in HTMA. And you have high calcium in your tissues. It is a sign that you have had either, now this can be acute stress, like a really big T trauma thing that happens and your body is like, blah, that could be it. Or what, in my experience with the woman I've worked with, it's usually a chronic thing. It's just happened over time because of chronic stress. And when your body is in stress mode all the time and it's emitting cortisol all the time, your body has this stress response where it's going to pull the calcium from your structural elements, your teeth, your bones, and it pushes that into your cells and makes this little shell around the cells, right? It pushes that into your tissue. And so now you have this little shell around your tissue. So things aren't going in and out well at all. If they are, every time I've had a calcium shell in a client, they have a low functioning thyroid because the thyroid hormone can't get into your cells. And eventually goes up and, it affects how things are firing in your brain because you have this calcium, the building up around your tissues and your nerves and all the things. So emotional dullness, emotional numbness, emotional kind of numbing out. That's the word that's coming up for me. Maybe it's like a dissociation. That can be another thing too. Just kind of checking out emotional. Yeah, dullness is the word that keeps coming up for me. Yeah, just kind of flatlined emotionally, right? And you just kind of check out. This is really common. And like I said, a lot of times when I find high-performing women with this, these are the women who it's like they don't even really recognize all the things going on in their body because they've just been able to kind of numb it, right? They've just kind of numbed it out. So this numbness and sometimes this is less conscious in some people and more conscious in some people. Like you recognize the emotional numbing or the dullness, right? Or the dissociation, but sometimes you don't. Copper is another one. Copper dysregulation, especially high copper or copper toxicity. I have a whole episode about that. This is that, I mentioned it a second ago, but it's these feelings of kind of anxiety and overwhelm and emotional intensity. So it can be a combination of those two where it's like super high highs and super low lows, right? If we have both, the high copper and the calcium, you might be experiencing both. A lot of women that I work with have this copper dysregulation for multiple reasons, but it can cause these feelings of emotional volatility, or it might just show up as anxiety for you, like anxiety and overwhelm. That might be how it shows up for you. Low magnesium is another one because remember we need it for that relaxing, I'm supposed to say hormone, relaxing mineral. And also it's kind of like the stress buffer, right? It's buffering your stress and we don't have it. And then the gut inflammation and the gut dysregulation, the gut dysfunction is going to affect how your neurotransmitters are firing. We think about things like serotonin and melatonin, things that are affected by the gut and by the vagus nerve and all that. There's a serotonin disruption when you have gut inflammation or gut dysfunction, your gut's not working great. So that is going to affect your moods 100%, your emotions, your mood, irritability, mood swings, all of those things. That's going to be really common. So hey, y'all, we'll get right back to the episode. But first, let me ask you this. You've built a vision that others admire. And you've built something that you're really proud of. But behind the scenes, your body feels like it's lagging behind. It just can't quite catch up to your brilliance and your mission that you have. That late night second wind, the foggy mornings, the hormone shifts, the endless push and forcing. You can't strategize your way out of that. And you already know you don't need more supplements. You don't need another supplement stack. You also don't need another side hustle disguised as self-care because nobody wants to have their health as a side hustle. This is about recalibrating your entire ecosystem. And that's why I created the Quantum Reset, a premium 3-month high-touch healing experience for visionary women who are ready to feel as powerful in their bodies as they do in their business. Inside, we decode your nervous system, your minerals, your hormones. We read your labs like the sacred text that it is, so we have actual answers. And then we pair that with deep energetic recalibration, subconscious release. We use gene keys, we use human design, and true embodied healing. This isn't about fixing burnout, because that's not what we're doing here. This is about becoming the woman whose body is powerful, whose body is completely electric, whose energy, clarity, radiance finally matches the size of her mission. If you know your success isn't meant to cost you your vitality and you're ready for a science-backed, spirit-led reset, then the Quantum Reset is your invitation. So check the link in the show notes or send me a message on Instagram, and let's bring your body back online with your brilliance. Now, let's get back to the show. I want to talk about one more. And this one is not being able to focus, lack of creativity, or like maybe inconsistent creativity or consistency in doing the things, right? This is another one I find. And I find that the women, so many of the women I work with, they can tap into their creativity, but it's like, it's short-lived, or they feel like there's like this wall or this fog like in front of me. Like I can't quite get to this, like the creative side of me. I can't quite get there. And a lot of times these women also have issues focusing, concentrating, or like staying on task. And I mentioned in the previous episode that I had a client that thought she swore she had ADD or ADHD. And then we come to find out she had a huge calcium shell and a ton of gut issues. And once we fixed that, it was fine. She never had to get on medication. So I find that these are pretty common too. Now, I want to mention a few mineral drivers for this. Potassium is one. It's affecting how our thyroid is functioning, but it's also affecting our mitochondria, how our mitochondria are performing, right? If our cells aren't functioning optimally and those little energy drivers in our cells, the mitochondria aren't, you're going to experience lack of clarity, creativity, access to those parts of you. Sodium is one. Sodium as it relates to the adrenals, right? You're easily overwhelmed. And you don't have the clarity. I think what this comes down to a lot of times is just the access to that clarity. When you want to be able to stay on task, when you want to be able to concentrate, when you want to be able to be creative, there's a clarity that's required, right? So if your adrenals are shot, you can't be clear, right? Because your cortisol is either probably super low. Your blood sugar is either all over the place or could be super low. And your adrenals aren't functioning great. My thyroid's not functioning great. Your thyroid is a driver of energy, like physical energy. So that's right. There's so many things affected by this, and you can't access that clarity. The gut issues as well, right? If we have issues with serotonin, you have issues with dopamine, you're going to be lacking motivation, the motivation to do the thing. And minerals are required for so many functions of the gut. The minerals in the gut, I mean, those things go together. And I think we often forget how much our gut, right? We call the gut the second brain, how much it affects our mental function, our mental capacity, our neurotransmitters. There's conversions that have to happen in the gut, and it requires an optimally performing gut for it to do that. So when we're looking for that the other thing I want to say too, this is kind of a side note, the calcium shell. So your pineal gland is the gland up in around your brain. And this is your gland responsible for things like your circadian rhythm, right? The other thing is it's connected to your third eye, right? Which is for your intuition. And I really feel like there's a clarity that comes when you have consistent access to that part of you, right? When you have a calcium shell, this is another area that can be affected by the calcium shell, this calcium buildup around the pineal gland. So yes, it might affect your circadian rhythm, but I also really find, and I've seen this firsthand, so I can say it, so you might think this is like up there on the woo scale, but I'm saying that I've seen it. It 100% impacts your access to your intuition and your creativity. I feel like intuition and creativity are so closely connected. And when you have that shell that build up around the gland, it's like a wall, it's a shell you get to like crack into it to be able to get access to it. So I find that that's also a huge thing too. For those of you asking like, well, if I have that, how do I get rid of it? Yes. And you can go back and listen to the whole episode I did on calcium shell, but yes, you can break through a calcium shell. So I just want to say that, but that's another one I wanted to bring forward. So I want to move on from the physical symptoms and all that. And I want to tie in the human design piece here. And I want to tie in the patterns, like the capacity patterns and human design types, and how every type is affected by burnout differently. And I have a series, I think I did either last year or the year before, and you can go back, and it's all of the like common chronic symptoms for each human design type. So some of this kind of ties into that, but I want to speak to it specifically talking about burnout, how it affects people, types differently. So I'm gonna lump my generators and mani-gens together because y'all are similar in this, and how the burnout comes through for you. The burnout is going to come through misalignment. So you burn out as a generator type. You burn out when you say yes to things that are a sacral no, right? You override your sacral authority. Or even if you're not sacral authority, you override your sacral yes or no. You use your energy on obligations instead of inspiration. And I find this one is huge. I'm going to say it again because I feel like it needs to land more. You use your energy on obligations instead of inspiration. I know that has been a huge one for me. And in the instance I gave earlier when I was talking about how I experienced burnout and like, I didn't want to let go of things and I didn't want to have people help and all those things. Like that was just one instance. There's multiple other instances how it showed up. But I found myself like there was zero time for inspiration and creativity. Zero. And that's something I really have to focus on now. And I oftentimes, this still creeps up. It's not as much. It still creeps up every now and then where I feel like, well, I'm the owner and I should be doing more. But doing more doesn't build the business. You have to have somebody that has the creative mind and the inspiration. Like you are the visionary of your business. If you're not leaving time to be the visionary, I mean, you can't expect to grow and scale and move, but you just can't. Like, it's not going to happen. So this one has been huge for me. And I've helped many of my clients recognize this same thing. Using your energy on obligations instead of inspiration is like a dream killer. It's just gonna like eventually just like decapitate your dreams. It's kind of a graphic example, but you know what I'm saying. This is a big one. Another one for you. When you burn out, you stay committed because you should and not because you're lit up. This kind of goes with the one I was just saying, but you're committed to things because you're like, well, I already said yes and I should do this, but you're not lit up by it at all. You override your sacral for logic or guilt. That's another one. Man, we want things to be logical so bad, don't we? And sometimes it's just not. The answer's not logical. You want the answer to be yes and the answer's no. You want the answer to be no and the answer is yes. You feel it in your body, but your mind's like, no. Like we override that when we listen to our mind. The other one here is you force yourself to finish things that your sacral is done with. As generator types, especially as mani-gens, this has been a big deconditioning thing for me. You start a lot of things and oftentimes you don't finish a lot of things. And that's just how it is, right? By the world standards, you might look flaky or indecisive or like you never finish things or you can't follow through with anything. That's not it. You are not designed to finish things. You don't have to finish things. So when you're forcing yourself to finish things that your sacral is a bit like, oh, this is so like, oh, this is burnout. This is what leads, one of the things that leads to burnout. So the symptoms that your body's using to warn you is fatigue after doing unaligned tasks. So the example I gave at the beginning of this episode where you work from sun up to sundown, but you're like, oh, the whole time, that's the sign. Frustration, because that's your not self-theme. Irritability, impatience, all of those are signs that your body's telling you. Brain fog, digestive issues. I had digestive issues for years. And I know this is part of it, a lot of it, maybe all of it. It's kind of this sacral shutdown affects gut motility, right? Your sacral is connected to different parts of your gut, if you will, and it's going to affect motility. And then inconsistent energy, despite all your healthy habits and all you're trying and doing all the things, right? Inconsistent energy. So the thing that's going to show up for you physically, for the most part, for mani-gens and generators, when you override your sacral, is you're going to burn through your sodium and your magnesium and your potassium really, really fast. So this is going to create chronic burnout. Adrenals are going to take the hit. For projectors, you burn out through overuse. Remember, as projector, you're here to be guide. So you burn out when you work more hours than your design supports. So not knowing your threshold or your capacity for work. You chase recognition instead of waiting for those aligned invitations. Or I talked about this in the last episode, but a lot of times, I want to say it. You don't have to sit around twiddling your thumbs, and you can take the aligned action to oftentimes, not all the times, oftentimes speed up that invitation, but it's not a chasing, right? I'm not going to chase it. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to take the aligned action. I'm going to put myself out there and then wait for the aligned invitations. You're not chasing it, right? There's a difference. The energy of that is different. Another thing, you feel, and so you overextend to compensate. Like you want to feel seen. You want to feel like people are receiving you and you can't force it. And so you're going to overextend yourself to compensate for that. You take on too many roles or responsibilities. This is a big one for my projectors. You work in environments where your ability to be the guide and your brilliance isn't valued, right? That can also like really drain you. And that can be a big one in like a work environment, like a maybe a corporate environment where you're here to be the guide and the role that you're playing is not that, right? And so your brilliance isn't seen or valued at all. That could be a big energy suck for you. So the signs or the symptoms that your body is using to warn you about this, Deep fatigue, that deep fatigue we were talking about, that doesn't improve with sleep. That's a big one. My projector clients or projector humans, you really do need more rest than the average person. So if sleep isn't helping your fatigue, this is a big sign. Bitterness, that's your not self thing, feeling that hypersensitivity. Maybe you feel overstimulated a lot all the time. Chronic overwhelm, just feeling overwhelmed with life and things. Maybe you're easily overwhelmed, another good sign. Immune issues. And just emotional depletion, because it's kind of just another impact of that fatigue. Projectors, a lot of times, are going to show low sodium, low potassium, immune issues, because your bodies just aren't built for constant output, right? Moving on to my manifestors, you burn out through resistance and suppression. I'm going to explain what I mean. So you're going to burn out when you don't rest deeply, like actually take the rest between your creative surges. So if you are resisting the rest between your creative surges and your rest surges or rest phases, that is a good recipe for burnout. You suppress your urges to avoid conflict. And when I say urges, manifestors are visionaries. You are the initiators. You're here to initiate. You're not here to respond like a generator type. You're here to initiate, to do it. And so when you suppress that, or you make yourself small, I find a lot of times when I've worked with manifestor clients, that's kind of the patterns. They make themselves small and they kind of hold back their power, their light, right? Because it's like, I don't want to make waves. I don't want to avoid conflict. This is a big reason manifestors are, you are here to be the visionary. So be the visionary. You got to be big to be the visionary. That's what I think. Another one, you feel controlled. Your not self theme is anger. So when you feel control, typically that's when it's going to come out. Manifestors, and this is kind of, there's a piece of mani-gens here too. We don't like being put in a box, and that's kind of the manifestor aspect, because it's kind of, some aspects of both. For manifestors, you don't want to be controlled. You don't want to be confined. You want to be put in a box. The anger is going to show up, and a lot of times this is going to result in things like adrenal spikes, blood sugar spikes. You pressure yourself to be consistent. Because remember, your creativity, your rest, it comes in phases, it comes in surges, it comes in waves. If you pressure yourself to be consistent, recipe for burnout. And the last thing I want to say here is when you disconnect from your inner fire, I want to say it like that inner fire that's driving you to be the visionary, to be the initiator. When you kind of let go of that power within you, that's going to be a big driver for burnout too. So the symptoms that are going to show you this: tension headaches, pressure headaches, right? Anger or emotional eruptions. Maybe you feel like emotionally volatile. Talked about the volatility earlier. Insomnia, maybe the wired but tired thing shows up a lot for you, or just not being able to stay asleep. Hormonal dysregulation. And really, like I said, that anger. And I really feel like the reason for this is, so anger is an emotion that is in the liver. The liver is responsible for so much of the conversion and clearing out of hormones and all the things. So I feel like when that is your primary emotion, right? That's your not self theme, then it's 100% going to impact your hormones and how your hormones are being converted, eliminated, all of that. And then the other thing is just chronic fatigue. I feel like this is true for all of them though. Chronic fatigue that is often disguised as like, oh no, I'm fine, right? That's a big one for manifestors. Manifestors are going to lend towards magnesium deficiency and oftentimes copper dysregulation or copper excess, which can amplify all those emotional swings. But a lot of times I feel like, because like I mentioned about the liver and the anger, like I feel like that has a big part of it too. So last one I want to talk about is reflectors. Any reflectors listening? And you experience burnout through environment. We talked about how sensitive you are to your environment, and absorption. So you burn out when you live or work around the wrong people. This is going to affect your energy big time. You don't honor your lunar cycle, or at least honor taking time to make decisions. You try to be consistent. You are not here to be consistent. Just like manifestors, you have this completely open energy field, right? You're undefined all the way around. You're not here to be consistent. You absorb emotional chaos from other people. This is a big one because you are constantly absorbing other people's energy all day. So that's going to be a huge energy suck on you. And then you don't take enough time alone. Alone time is so crucial for you as a reflector. And when you don't take enough time alone, you're going to have all the emotions and energy from other people, and it's just going to keep piling up, right? So symptoms that your body uses to show you this: mood swings. It could also be, irritability, mood swings, just kind of unstable emotions, unstable moods. Immune issues for sure. Sensitivity to things, and sensitivity to your environment can also mean sensitivity to foods. food sensitivities, sensitivity to emotions, just feeling sensitive to a lot can be a really big sign for my reflectors. Exhaustion after social interaction. Like if you haven't taken the time to discharge the energy that you're around every day, you're going to feel exhausted after social interactions. And then just kind of feeling off without knowing why. Feeling off, just feeling off. You feel it in your body. So I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about some energy centers here before we wrap up this episode and how this ties to burnout. I think I just want to talk about undefined energy centers here. Yeah, I'm just going to talk about undefined. So first, the root. I've talked about the root before. If you have an undefined root, your pattern is urgency addiction. And I mentioned before, if you are doing things in the energy of urgency, this is not how we're meant to do things. You burn out because rushing feels normal. The urgency feels normal, and you probably have normalized it. Your minerals are going to show me, though, you're going to have chronic adrenal fatigue, blood sugar instability is going to be huge. For my undefined solar plexus folks out there, emotional burnout, because this is our emotional center. You're absorbing other people's emotions. It's going to lead to things like inflammation. The big thing from the solar plexus is because it's tied to so many of our detox organs. You are not detoxing from your own emotions and other people's emotions, or you're not detox is what I want to say. When you're not feeling them, so we're not feeling your own, if you're suppressing them, repressing them, or if you're taking on other people's, you are literally affecting how your body is detoxing because it's connected to so many of our detox organs. So you're going to experience things like hormonal imbalances. Maybe you have estrogen dominance. Maybe you have your toxic load is heavy, which is going to cause things like inflammation. It's a lot there. If you have an undefined ajna, this is your third eye, you're going to experience this it's more of a mental burnout, like a mental pressure. You're burning out from needing certainty, from needing answers, from needing solutions. Like, I have to know what now. I have to know it now. When you experience things like tension headaches, insomnia, obsessive thinking, rumination, right? This is what's happening. This is the not self theme of the undefined or of the ajna. And then if you have an undefined ego center, your burnout is going to show up from proving your worth, proving yourself. You take on too much because you're trying to earn your worth. This is a big one. I've talked about it a million times, but this is a really big driver of burnout, of adrenal burnout. And it's also going to affect your immune system. It's going to affect things like inflammation in the body and the gut. But if you're trying to prove yourself, recipe for burnout. Okay, I just wanted to mention those few undefined centers. So I want to talk one more time here about productivity and the belief that we can only rest when we've earned it, that being unproductive, like there's guilt or shame associated with being unproductive, that if we slow down, we're going to lose momentum and I'm going to fall behind and I'm not going to get there, quote unquote, there, wherever there is. That stillness or rest equals laziness, right? These are sneaky ways. I don't think... Well, sometimes we do say these out loud. I think sometimes we don't say these out loud. Sometimes we do, but these are the subconscious beliefs that are running the show. And on a conscious level, you might say, no, I know that rest isn't lazy. I know that stillness isn't lazy, but your subconscious doesn't believe that, right? I know I don't have to earn my rest. That's not what your subconscious thinks, right? On a conscious level, we could be thinking two different things. So if that's the subconscious part that's running the show, then that's what's running the show. Like that's what's running your body. It's running your energy system. It's the operating system. Your nervous system cannot hold more. It cannot hold success if your worth is tied to performance and tied to productivity. It just can't. So your body is going to collapse, maybe these different parts of your body, right? Because your identity is carrying this weight that's not even yours. It's not even yours. Worthiness, I'm going to say this and it sounds so trite, for lack of a better word. Your worthiness is inherent. You are worthy simply because you exist. And as simple and as basic and as whatever as that sounds, that's a truth. It's a fact. It is not transactional. It is inherent. We don't have to earn it. We don't have to do anything. You were born worthy and nothing has changed. Melanie Ann Lair says that all the time. You were born worthy and nothing has changed. So that's it. You were born, the worthiness you had at your first breath, when your mom is holding you in the hospital, whatever, you have the same level of worthiness as you do right now in this present moment. You didn't have to do anything to earn it, get more of it. Like that's it. It's not transactional. In your next level, your healing, your growth requires you to believe that, like on a soul, deep, cellular level, not just like, yeah, I get it. That's it. And so I feel like this is the truth I want you to take away from this episode, because and the reason I'm bringing this up again is because this is such a driving factor for so many of the things that we've just talked about and the ways that we're depleting our body is because the reason we're burnout is not because we're doing too much. It's taking misaligned action. It's doing things in the wrong energy. If we're doing it for performance, if we're doing it just to be productive, we're doing it because we have to do it to earn, right? All of those, that's why we're burning out. That's why we're burning out. That's why. In conjunction with these beliefs and these patterns, this is what affects your frequency field. And I want to touch on this for a quick second. Your frequency field, this is something that I've been tying into my work. I did the series a couple months ago about the frequency recalibration and using the Healy device, which is something I use in my practice now. Your frequency field is going to reveal those patterns underneath the burnout. So those subconscious things where on a conscious level, you're like, no, I believe this and I believe this. Your frequency field is going to show what's underneath that and what is kind of running the show in your subconscious. It's going to show the resentment, right? Maybe that's resentment in your solar plexus. It's going to show the fear in the root center, right? That you don't feel safe. It's going to show the self-worth distortion. It's going to show the emotional overflow or the emotional suppression, perhaps. It's going to show the overthinking. It's going to show your lack of boundaries, your boundary collapse. It's going to show your ancestral imprints that are impacting how you're being. It's going to show records of potentially unresolved trauma. It's going to show this identity conditioning that's not yours. It's going to show the state of your nervous system. It's going to show your subconscious beliefs that are impacting how you're experiencing your burnout. And this is why I love using this tool, using the Healy and being able to tap into your frequency, your energy field. And if you don't know, when I say frequency, it's your energy field, right? Aura can be like a triggering word for people. It's your energy field. Energy field is a scientific thing. There are actual machines that can show you your energy field. So this is a real thing. This isn't woo. This is actually science. But I like to use this tool to be able to dive into this part because it's like the software that's telling your hardware how to function, right? It's like the software telling your body is the hardware, how to function. So with that, then we can pinpoint, these are the patterns. These are the patterns. This is actually what your body believes, because this is what's in your subconscious. On a conscious level, I know you don't, but this is what it actually believes. So I wanted to mention that because I think that's another key piece here, because on a conscious level, we can absolutely believe all of that I just talked about. But on a subconscious level, if that's what's running the show, you're going to keep running into the same symptoms over and over and over and over again. And I think that the work, the energetic work and the frequency work, the emotional work, all of this is how we stop the cycle of flare-ups and of recurring symptoms and of kind of staying in that loop of healing, constantly healing and having to go from practitioner to practitioner. Because you can't expect, I think this is what I think so often we go into this thinking like, okay, I'm going in because I want to fix my hormones or my gut or whatever. And I'm just going to go in as this person. I'm going to leave this experience as this same person and everything's going to be fixed. If you think about that logically, it doesn't even make sense. How am I going to fix everything that's going wrong in my body in this version of me, in the same version of me, it's all going to be fixed? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense. You cannot heal things in the same version of you that got you those symptoms. You just can't do it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. We have to upgrade the software. We have to upgrade the operating system so that now there's a new operating system running the show. That's what's going to help heal all the things. And if we don't do that, and that healing the operating system it's the energetic work, it's the frequency work, it's the subconscious, it's all of those pieces that's running the patterns and the beliefs of the software. That's what helps my clients heal. That's what gets, quote unquote, that's what gets rid of the symptoms for good. And that's what leads you to not have to keep doing all the same things again. Like, I've done all these supplements and I've done all this stuff. This is how you get off that hamster wheel of constantly doing the protocols and constantly, like, are things going to pop up? Of course. We're humans living a human experience, and we know that human experience is not linear. So of course we're going to have hard times and stressful times, and things are going to pop back up. Now we know why they popped up and we know what to do about it. And that's really the beauty of this work that I do, is helping you to understand. I talked about this in the last episode. Understand exactly what's going on in your body so that, yes, when things pop up and you're in a stressful stage of life or you have this traumatic thing happen and your physical body is showing you the signs that it's happened, you know what to do about it. I understand why I feel this way. I understand why my hormones have done this. I understand why my gut's doing this, and I know what to do about it. And I know what operating system wants to like pop back up to the surface. Like, no. We've changed that one. Like, we know how to undo it. We know how to recalibrate the body. And that's the power of this. This is what makes the work I do different than just functional medicine alone. It's frequency informed, it's body led energetics, it's body led wisdom. And that's what I want you to get out of this. It's body led wisdom. So I want to leave you with a couple things to think about. I want you to ask yourself, after listening to all this, where am I overriding my body's nose? Where am I performing instead of responding? And I want to add to that, where am I performing instead of just being? Ask yourself that. Where am I working for worthiness? What is one thing that I can stop doing today to increase my capacity? This one might take a while. You might have to think on these. What is one thing I can stop doing today to help increase my capacity? And the last one, what does my authority, my human design authority, say about my current workload? So I want you to tune into your authority, whether you're sacral, emotional, self-projected, whatever you are. What does it say about my current workload? Right? Am I even tuning into it at all? Is it helping me make my decisions? Am I overriding it? Tune into that. This is going to give you a lot of insight. Those few questions alone is going to give you a lot of insight. And I want you to really think about these. If you're listening to this like on a walk or in the car or at the gym or whatever, go back and listen to these questions at the end and do these. Journal on it, meditate on it, whatever. But I want you to really tune into those and see what comes up for you. Because this could be the thing that helps shift the version of you that's stepping into 2026. And that's really the point of this whole series, right? I want this to give you these aha light bulb moments because you've contemplated these deep thoughts, and that's going to bring you into 2026 in a different way, right? So I hope this serves you today, and I will see you for the last episode next week.